Okay, we are live back in the shop working on this. What is it? A Steinway A 1901 piano. We'll see if anyone makes it back, but I think we're good. Okay, I'm just going to get to work, and as people join, they can join. Welcome. If you're joining, I'm just going to continue work on this piano. If you have questions, add them to the chat. Oh, if you want to join with video, I'm going to post the link on here so that you could, if you need to show me something that we want to look at together on a piano that you're at. And I'm going to go to YouTube for a second and pin that up to the top. Okay. Okay, we're going to pin that comment right to the top here. Okay. That link is pinned. We are all set. All right. So we've set the dip on this piano. I need to make a few adjustments so that I can prepare to set how far the hammers are from the strings at rest when the piano starts. So that's what I'm doing next on this anyway. And if you haven't joined before, feel free to interrupt what I'm doing. It does not bother me at all. I would like to discuss what you want to discuss. So, get the roll here. Okay, set that there. Okay, I'm just getting some tools out of the way. Lots and lots of tools. That's kind of the story working on a piano. Out of my way, and we're going to need to get the action over here on the workbench. You can see my two hammers that are sticking up high there. Those are the samples that I set, and all the hammers are going to end up at that height when we're finished. It's those two. But I need to make some adjustments so that when I set that height, it'll be stable. So, I have to adjust. This won't be super visible, but that's okay. It's not the main point of this live stream anyway. But first thing I want to do is unfreeze my camera. Okay. I want to set. You know what? I do want to set things roughly. This is the way it goes with adjusting a piano. Sometimes you have to rough in an adjustment before you can refine it. Otherwise, it's difficult to make other adjustments. So I'm going to raise all these hammers with my capstan wrench here. This is an old style wrench. This is the kind for this piano. It takes this wrench to turn the capstans, whereas others are just a hole, and it's just a small thing that you stick in the hole and turn it. But this one's a little harder to work with. But if you get this tool, it works better. And if you alter the tool correctly, you do have to widen the slot of the tool, grind it, then it works better. So here we go. So I'm going to rough in the hammer height, which on this piano is going to be kind of high off the parts below it compared to how I want it ideally. And I can lower my chair. That'll be a little more comfortable. So if you're just joining, it's pretty relaxed here. You could just kind of view things, but I'd love to see any comments posted. Okay. We can maybe get a different view for fun. This. Okay, then. So as I raise these, what it does is it makes the hammer arrive at the string sooner in relation to when the key's going down. And so there's more keystroke left over after the hammers hit the string. These lower ones, they don't reach the string by the time I reach the bottom of the keystroke. And so what happens is you have no follow through. There's no cushion after the hammer hits the string. So I'm roughing this in so that we can make a more refined adjustment. This is how it goes with new parts. You got to regulate them. It takes quite a bit. It's not the same as regulating a piano that's already set up and ready to go, you know. If the camera seems low, it's because I've got my short chair on so that I can look down at these parts. And if you're just joining, feel free to add a question or comment and I will respond to it. I'll stop what I'm doing. Doesn't bother me at all. That's why I'm doing this stream, is to respond to your questions and comments. Okay, let's see here. So I tell people that I turn screws for a living because that's basically what I do. You know, whether it's tuning pins or I'm turning these screws underneath here to raise these hammers. I'm going to turn some more screws, and that's the majority of what this job is about. So if you find you're the kind of person that enjoys turning screws for a living, for a good living, this might be the career for you. I've got my heater on a little bit. It's not that cold here, but I was just getting a little chilly. I hope it doesn't add too much to the background sound on the video. I hope it doesn't mess things up too much. Oh, that reminds me, I should probably plug in the phone camera here so we don't run out of battery. There we go. So if you notice, when I try and push this key here, the hammer just bounces on me. Because I don't have the correct relationship set up where the mechanism is allowed to clear. Whereas these now, I can push the key. I don't need battery. I can push the key and it goes into check. It catches on this leather check in the back. Okay. That's what I want, because I want to set where that catches and I want to set how it springs and resets afterwards. That's what I'm shooting for. So in order to achieve that, I need these hammers a little higher so that they'll go into check. If this discussion is too technical for your level of interest, don't let that drive you off. We can gear the discussion wherever. This is just, I'm just basically talking about what I'm doing. And if you've just joined, what I'm doing is just regulating this Steinway action. It's a rebuild. It's all new parts here from 1901. And feel free to interrupt me and add comments or questions, and we'll start discussing your questions. Okay. Some of these screws have to be turned a lot, and this is not the style of screw. This older screw type that's down here on this old piano from 1901 is a type that's not super easy to adjust compared to the modern capstan screws, but it's doable if you have the right tool. Okay, and this is not necessarily where things are going to end up, but it's allowing me to have access to be able to set the other adjustments properly. Okay, it looks like we got a question here. Perfect. Micah Fisher. Welcome, Micah. Thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. I'm looking to purchase my first upright piano. In your experience, do the refurbished Yamaha U1s typically hold up well, or should I expect a few common issues? Okay, so Yamaha, we call them gray market Yamahas, right? Let me raise my chair. We can actually look. We call them gray market Yamahas, where they were probably used in Japan, refurbished, sent over to the US and resold as used pianos. I would try, I'm guessing you're looking there because it's at a price point where you're looking to buy. From my experience, there are parts in the action on those that come broken. You don't notice it right off, but there's springs that are intact. They're held by a cord, and a lot of times those cords are broken. Oh, but if you're looking around 5 or 6K, if that's US dollars, my goodness, you could probably get a used U1 that was made for the US market. Definitely, I would think. You know, depending on what market you are in, you know, what city and so forth. Yeah, so those cords, I mean, they're not a huge deal to replace. But at that price range, yeah, I would be looking for a newer piano, because sometimes those refurbished pianos from Japan, they could be 20, 30 plus years old, and they've lost their luster in the soundboard too. So, and if you're in, looks like you're in Portland, Oregon, yeah, lots of pianos around there. It's probably a good market to buy right now. If it's like Salt Lake right now, prices are, people are not able to fetch great prices on used pianos if they're selling them. So it's definitely a buyer's market. I don't know if all the sellers have caught on to that yet, but that's what's going on. So I think if you happen to find a refurbished one that just had just an awesome sustained sound that you were just in love with, and you're like, I have to have this piano, it's not going to be that much money to get those chords replaced, have the springs working. But bear in mind, the hammers have had some wear with a piano of that age. So I would, I would look for something more new. I would imagine you could get a used U1 that was about half the age of some of those and worked a lot better. So that's a great, super great question. Yeah, and feel free to keep discussing if there's something I'm overlooking with what you're asking. But if you're just joining, welcome. I hope the sound is okay. I'm running the mic sound from my phone camera here that I can move around and show what I'm doing if needed. Yeah, but hopefully it's good. Anyway, if you're joining, just feel free to put your comments, questions in the comments. If you're at a piano or you want to show me something on your piano, that's easy to do. Easy. From your smartphone, there's a link at the top of the chat. You can just click that link, join StreamYard, and I can put you onto so we can view that together. But I love Micah Fisher's question here about the used U1s. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm hoping to help people with, and also keep technicians honest, keep dealers honest. If I have any information that might help that way. So thanks for joining. Let's see. Another comment from Micah. Awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you. I wasn't sure how many pieces on those gray market pianos they actually replace. Yeah, I haven't seen the actions be replaced so much. I think it's mostly painting on the outside and new key tops. And Yamahas last a long time functionally, and so most people, it's fine. The keys all work and stuff, but don't perform quite to the level of something that is not as old. Okay. Gotta lower my chair again. So with this stream, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of more of I like being a improv on the spot kind of guy, both in music and I kind of enjoy this. I hope it catches on where people can tune in and get the information they want, efficiently. And a lot of videos I feel like are just so doctored up. You don't really see who's actually doing the repairs successfully and things like that. And I just thought it might be nice to have a window into the shop for anyone who wants to see what we're doing. So let's see, any new comments on chat? No new comments yet. And I'm getting some work done at the same time, which I do not mind, to be honest with you. The time if any of you have tried to produce content for YouTube, you know that the time required to film and post and all that, everything that's required with it takes an extreme, it's a lot of time. Let's put it that way. And there's ways to do it that are more efficient, of course, and I'm kind of learning some of those, but it doesn't really compensate. You're not necessarily compensated, on a small scale like I am here, for the time. But I'm hoping in the future to provide quality tools that are basically tested, field tested kind of tools that I use regularly. That then I could say, okay, if you want to try this DIY project on your piano, or you're a technician, or you're learning, you can get this tool, and here it is, and purchase it. I have a couple tools that are like that already that people buy from us. But that's what I'm hoping to do to support the investment that's required just to be able to put out this content. If anyone's curious about, like, what's this guy doing? What is it? What's his aim? I do want to provide like really top quality piano technical advice in an affordable way, and facilitate people. There are a lot of things that have been kind of kept to the industry for a lot that I don't think necessarily need to be that way. It's just people trying to make more profit. And anyway, that's my opinion anyway. So I'd like to open a lot of that up. And there's a lot of people who, maybe aren't dealt with totally honestly, or their product that they're buying is represented as being a lot higher quality than it is. So I think I'll get great satisfaction in helping people stay honest. But let's see, we have Christopher Gurenson, welcome back. This is golden. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Great. I'm glad someone could benefit. So in the meanwhile, we'll just keep turning screws here and raising these hammers. You can tell where we're getting on this. Oh, my view keeps freezing, but so the right half of the keyboard, it's just rough right now. All I need is roughly at that height, because I'm going to set it perfectly at that height later on, but I cannot do so until some of these other adjustments are taken care of first. So, hey, I appreciate your support, you who are on here, and especially your kind words there, Christopher. I hope I'm saying your name right. My last name, Weeble, originally comes from Denmark. So everyone says, oh, well, it should be Weibel because it's German. I said, no, it's Weibel. And so my great grandpa was from Denmark. He decided when he came to the US, he said, no, Weeble. That's how he wanted it said. Kind of sound like Weibel, I guess, to him. So anyway, that's where my name comes from. Denmark. It's been fun to connect with people throughout the world, as I've done different videos and gotten comments. It's I just love connecting with people, who are earnestly interested in similar things as I am. It's kind of neat, especially if I can, help someone out that way. Let's see. Oh, from Sweden. I figured Sweden with the Göransson. Okay. So in Sweden, are you seeing many Steinway pianos? Are they all from Germany? If so, or I'm curious. One thing about regulating a piano is it's going to test you. You get in all these weird positions, and you're sitting, terrible posture. And I mean, there's ways to probably set it up where it's not so much that way, like the height of my chair. I try and do some things, but if you're going to regulate pianos, you're going to, you got to limber up a little bit, you got to be careful. And no, I'm not in great shape right now. I hope to get back into good shape this summer. I'm going to do some good hikes in the mountains this summer. I'm excited for. Going to go to Idaho and hike the Middle Teton with my son, who's 16. He's bigger than I am now, but he's built like a draft horse. He'll go up that trail no problem without probably any training, but I need to get back into shape. So I'm looking forward to that as the weather gets warmer. Okay, so I think I may not have shown everybody, but look, these hammers that I haven't raised yet, they bounce when I hit the key. Okay. And the ones that we've raised, they go into check. They don't bounce. And that's what we need in order to set that checking height and to set the spring that happens after I let go of the key. As I release slowly, boing. That's what we're working on. And it looks like, you're like, oh, well, these hammers on the left are higher than the ones on the right. They've been raised, but no, this is the base section, right? So it has to go higher yet to about half an inch above there. So there we are. Anyway. So it sounds like there's a lot. Christopher says there's a lot of Steinways in Sweden. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. How about IKEAs? Are there any IKEA? I love IKEA. When we got an IKEA in Utah, I was so excited for the meatballs. Let me tell you. It's one of our favorite things to do. Okay. I was kind of thinking that there might be some who are just learning the trade and don't know what all the different parts are called, and it sounds weird when they read a lot about pianos, but and so you might think, well, I have no business making a comment or a post in this kind of a forum, but I would encourage you. I hopefully will never make anyone feel bad for not having a chance to be exposed to knowledge or tools that would help them. I think we're all equal when it comes down to it, and it's just a matter of opportunities for experience and learning. And I'm hoping to even that playing field out. And so I hope you feel brave to put forth your questions. If anyone puts you down, I'll kick them out. We don't need any of that here. Just be brave. I don't care how old you are, how inexperienced, whatever, or if you have no plans of working on pianos and you just are curious about them, do not feel bad about asking a question if you don't know the right word for it or whatever. There's no reason to feel hesitant that way. I think we'll have more fun. Everyone will have a better experience the more people will chime in on the chat. So Christopher says he's going to get some education in Stockholm, 2 years piano technician education. So they have a developed program there. That sounds really neat. You know, I learned from just more one-on-one apprentice style, and so I hope it's a good program. Well, what's the name of the program, if you don't mind my asking? I'm always curious what programs are out there for people wanting to learn how to be a technician. And while you're telling me that, I'm going to set these back checks. So look at where it's hitting. So I hit the key. So I push the key and let it just fall down here. Okay. I wish I could zoom in on this, but I don't think I can. Oh, but you know what I can do? I can feature this camera. Let me do that. Let's feature this camera a little bigger. Solo layout. Okay. So we see where it hits the back check. I'm going to bend this forward a little bit. I'm kind of bracing the key with my left hand here. I'm going to bend this forward. Now notice when it stops, now it's a lot higher. It's checking a lot higher on this check. That's probably a little too high for where I want to end up. So I'm going to just lower it just a tiny bit. And I'm going to make sure it doesn't drag on the back check as it goes up when you push the key hard. Hey, for those of you just joining, welcome, welcome, welcome. My face isn't on the camera right now, but not that you want to see my face, honestly. But anyway, we're just looking at a project that I'm working on in the shop, but we're discussing whatever it is you want to discuss. Okay, answering any questions about piano, getting second opinions on piano works, on piano repairs that may have been quoted to you, and things like that. Just add your comment to the comments and I will address it. We'll start talking about what you want to talk about. Okay, so I'm just going to set this again. This is not where it's going to necessarily end up in perfectly in the end, but I'm going to go really roughly. And what I like to look at when I set this is I like to look, let me show you, right here at the bottom of the tail where it hits the yellow. It's really easy to tell how high up on the yellow it is. Okay, so I'm going to just do that and put those in a line kind of more or less, but I'm not going to be too picky because this is going to change as I adjust other things. The only reason I'm doing this right now, well, first of all, it gets me closer to where I'm going to be in the end with this piano adjustment, but it allows me to set what's called the repetition spring. The repetition spring is what helps the mechanism reset after you've played the note, okay? And we're just going to keep making sure these are close. You know, if I had to if I change how far the key goes down. Oh, thank you, Christopher. So the program is at the Royal College of Music, and they have piano technician education. I just think that's awesome. We're kind of limited in the States with the number of programs. I would love to be part of something like that, you know, instructing in something like that. It would be fun, I would think. Sometimes there's a concern, people say, well, if we teach too many people how to be tuners and technicians, then there won't be enough work for everyone. And I don't think that's the case. I think there's plenty of work for, and there's enough areas of emphasis and specialty in this field that you can find your own niche and do just fine if you're committed. So I'm excited for you. Okay. All right. So now when I push the keys and I let them go into check, try that again. Now, as I release the keys slowly, check this out. They're going to bounce up, right? The hammers, boing, 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 boing. And I'm adjusting how fast that is going to happen. I'm going to adjust that after I do all the back checks here. So we'll keep doing the back checks. And again, a lot of people say, well, don't you need to measure? So a lot of people will measure where this should check off of the height of the string so that it's a certain distance from the string. But honestly, I've found that I want them to check as close to the string in general. In general, some pianos feel better the other way, but I want it to check as close to the string as this geometry will allow for, without hanging up, and where it gets caught very assuredly. And even on a soft play, it will get caught. Okay, that's the key. Because the more, the easier it gets caught on a soft play, the more control you have on that piano. Okay, so I'm just bending all these up. And if anyone is new to the stream, make yourself known. Bring up your questions. Bring up your thoughts on pianos and things, and we will discuss them. What I'm doing here is just kind of a sideshow while I'm getting some work done on this piano that we're rebuilding in the shop. Okay. I'm right-handed, so it works well for me to kind of go this direction and do it this way. Back checks are kind of fussy because you're just bending a wire, right? And sometimes it's hard to tell, did I actually bend that wire, or did I bend it in a place that's going to be kind of stable? But you kind of learn, okay, I got to kind of settle it, and then it's in its real place. So like everything, there's just a feel to it, and the more you do it, you get a feel for it. And of course, there are substandard quality parts that are just never going to behave the way that you need them to. And my motto is, don't fight quality of parts. Don't get frustrated on a piano because it can't be regulated perfectly if the parts won't allow for it. Those are the limitations of those parts, that piano. Blame it on the piano, not, it's not your ability to regulate. That sounds like bad. That sounds like I'm making an excuse, but no, it's true. You'll find it. There's piano parts that aren't that great. Okay, let's see here. Hey, if you're just joining us, love to hear your comments on or your questions that you have about pianos. Could be wanting a second opinion on something. Repairs could be a technical question, tuning question, whatever. If you want to show us a piano problem, we can get you up on the video. Just click the link at the top of the chat, and it'll connect you to the show that way. So welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. Right now I'm just working on this Steinway A action, just trying to get it regulated. It's a piano that we're rebuilding, trying to get out the door and get paid for. Beautiful piano. I was a little worried because the customer didn't have the money to replace the soundboard on this, where I really would have recommended it. But we did a soundboard repair on it, which honestly, it sounds great. So I think I would love to own this piano. Let's put it that way. And I'm kind of picky because I see a lot of good pianos, right? So hey, and don't be shy on the comments. No one's gonna put you down. Feel free to shout out anything on your mind, even if it's just for fun. If we're not having fun, then we're not having fun, right? Okay. Now, obviously, the back checks have to be aligned. If you put we put new back checks in every time we rebuild an action because it makes such a difference with the control. Oh, Christopher has another comment here. Have to say your videos on tuning really helped me. Super informative. Still working on the temperament. Yeah, the temperament is a bear. It's not cool because you have to tune something out of tune, and that's hard to find that place really quickly. So that one takes a lot of practice for sure, you know. Um, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and so I'm gonna change up this camera a little bit because I want to speak to you directly. Okay, so the you know the temperament is hard, and honestly, um, I think once you learn it, then you don't need to know it at that point. You know, at that point, I think it's best then to use an if you're going for speed, you know, use an electronic device and then just check it orally after you tune the first 13 notes of the piano and then go through the rest orally. That's going to be your most efficient way to do it. You know, and whether if you're tuning some special temperament for historical reasons, again, some have to be done by ear because you know you don't have them in the machines, but most are plugged into the machine, and that's probably going to be your most efficient way. But yeah, it's good to learn how to do it. And I've been tuning more temperaments by ear lately when I have time, just to up my skills so that I can do it quickly when I want to. Scott Jackson, good morning from Australia. Good morning. That's great. Welcome to the chat. Thanks for saying hello there. Um, where was I? I was setting back checks, right? Oh, so what I was going to say, Christopherson, setting the temperament. Um, yeah, it's one of those necessary evils that I think we have to kind of learn and work with. I do find that on some pianos, the machine will just be way off for some reason. And I want to be able to then refine it by ear because I want a slightly different sound. Um, and so it is good to know, but it's a different kind of tuning than tuning unisons and octaves where you can just hear it's crystal clear and you're just like, yeah, that's beautifully in tune. You know, you can't you can't do that as much with the temperament, but you know, we're so used to equal temperament that over time, like, you know, when it's locked into the right place, you feel that satisfaction. You're like, yes, this is right, and I have the same texture from key to key. So I don't know if anyone tuned into the live stream that I started the other night, but when I started making videos on YouTube, I was not interested in doing tuning videos so much, you know, because first of all, you know, there's so many there's tuning software out there, right? Someone could get started tuning and not need to learn the skill by ear. And I use the machine a lot, and then so I brushed off my skills to start doing the videos. I didn't really have to brush them off that much, but you know, because I practiced a lot initially when I started learning how to tune, so it kind of stayed with me. But um, when I got into tuning it by ear, I thought, wait a minute, I like this a lot better. And I thought, whoa, you know, it used to be I tune with the machine, I'd be happy with about, you know, 85, 90% of the piano, and other areas I thought, I'm not totally happy with the sound of that. Now, tuning by ear, I can say, oh, I'm happy with 99% of that. And so it's really cool that way. Anyway, so we're almost done rough setting these back checks, and then we're going to set the springs. Okay. One of the things I love about this career is there's the mechanical aspect, there's the sit in your shop in an afternoon and just hit a key over and over and bend a wire aspect, and but there's also kind of deeper mathematics, science, physics involved, and deeper musical concepts involved. So it's just very satisfying, you know, for all the things I love. when I first started learning, I got hired in a shop at the university, and so um, I had to take a pay cut to do it from my job that I had, and but I went into the shop and just learning about tools. That was something I never got when I was younger at home or anything. Experience with different tools and mechanical things, and so I was really interested in getting into that. It kind of just satisfies all the parts of my brain, I feel like. But anyway, if I were to, I studied music, which I don't regret. I loved it, and learned a lot. But if I had a chance to do another degree, it would be probably mechanical engineering or something like that, and getting into design and stuff like that, because it just really interests me. But anyway, enough about me. What do you guys want to know? What other things? If nothing, that's okay. You're welcome to just hang out. Okay, I've got all these set where I want. Now, stick this camera kind of back here. TuneLab, yeah, TuneLab, affordable option. I have friends that are pros that do great tunings with TuneLab. They really love it. I tried it a little bit, but I always feel like with a tuner, for me to get it like the way I want it, like just perfectly in tune, like I feel like I need to know that software well enough to change the settings the way I would want and get in and out of it to get the tuning result that I want. But you know what? Honestly, that's splitting hairs. That's so picky at that point. And for starting out, it's all of those, the softwares and machines. I think most of them are going to be just great. Okay, so I'm going to use my little spring tool here, and I'm going to weaken or strengthen the springs as needed so that they go up. They definitely pop back up when I release the key, but not too much, not too fast, and not too slow like that. That's too weak. That's too slow. And these new springs on these parts are really touchy. And I want them to kind of all be the same too. So these are good. Now I have to set these springs because at this point, because I want to adjust where this jack goes. Okay. So here, if you look down here, I'm wiggling the jack. Maybe there, I'm wiggling a jack. That's the jack. Okay. And I can adjust where that starts, like front to back. Let me wiggle it here. I can adjust a screw that will move it this way or this way so that it fits directly underneath where it needs to lift the hammer. But then it has to return back underneath to reset. And if the spring is not the right strength, it won't reset well. And if it's too strong, you'll feel that kick against the keys because it pushes against the back of the key indirectly. And so it will be distracting to the touch at that point. Hey, if you're just joining the stream, thanks for joining. This is just really open. You just add your questions, comments to the chat, and I'll respond to them. And it could be anything, okay? Whether you've maybe heard my spiel, but it's whether it's a second opinion you want or a technical question, I'm open to discussing whatever. And I'm just getting some work done on this piano that we're rebuilding in the shop. You could ask questions about my business, my shop. I'm open to whatever. Oh, here we have. Oh, thanks, Virgin Man 3 back again this afternoon. Do you have any good stories about musicians being tyrants about your tuning or adjustments? Thankfully, no. No, most musicians that I've run into, most pianists that are performing like at the symphony. Okay,
There was a gal who performed at the Utah Symphony last night that I tuned for, and she's been in town before. And there was another technician who voiced the piano in between a time when she practiced and she did her first performance. And he voiced it down so much that it was muted. It was so muted compared to where it was for her. That just totally sent her in shock. So she was understandably upset. And so then she was so upset that they wanted to call me in instead. So I came in and voiced the hammers up, and she was really particular and worried at that point, right? So she went through it a lot with me as far as the evenness of it, making sure it was the way she wanted. Because when you put hardener in a hammer right off and you try and get a good tone, it takes a little while for it to be the tone to be more stable. So you can have some unevenness, and she was kind of freaking out. So that was, but other than that, things have gone pretty smoothly for me. Most pianists have been very gracious. And they'll just, I mean, they're used to dealing with lots of different pianos. Olga Kern, awesome person. She was she was matched with a piano for a concert in town here that the piano was not prepped well, and I didn't have a chance to look at it until the day of the concert. And I heard that she was saying it was problematic, and I felt bad. I wished I had more time to do it, but most musicians are really cool about things. If you know your stuff and you get it prepped where it's gonna, they just don't want to have to work too hard and injure themselves. They want the instrument to project well. They want it to repeat fast and well and be light, not too heavy. So if you prepare things with that in mind, I think most people will be thrilled. And then from there, it's just little adjustments that they might say, oh, this note's a little bright. Could you knock that down? Or this note's a little muted. Can you bring this section up? Or hey, when I use the unicorda pedal, there's too much contrast. Those are the things that I've run into in my career so far. So, and I'm grateful for that. I feel like great pianists have more to contribute to what I do than they're not the enemy. They're the collaborator, right? We want to be friends, and we want to speak the same language. But that's a great question. Thanks, Virgman 3. So these springs, I barely touch them, and then they just kind of die. So I have to be careful, like readjusting them. And what I'm doing to strengthen the spring, I'm actually bending the metal out, right? So let me show you. Excuse me, I'm not used to talking this much when I work. This spring is what I'm adjusting, okay? It's a butterfly spring. It's a coil around a pin back here, and then it has the two lengths. One goes down, one goes up. The lower one resets the jack and springs it back into place there. The upper one pushes up on the hammer knuckle. So the result of those two things, when it's squeezed by the key, is that it pushes in opposite directions, like this, to reset the note, okay? So I'm actually taking this top part of the spring out, and I'm bending it down, or I'm pulling it and bending it up with the tool to either strengthen or weaken its response, okay? Hopefully that was visible, if you care. Yeah. Hey, if you're joining this stream, you don't need a golden ticket to take part in the conversation. Just add your comment, whatever question you might have or comment, and we'll discuss whatever you want to. We're not in the middle of some deep discussion or anything. I'm just getting some work done on this piano, and I'm hoping lots of people will join in with questions that I can be
helpful in answering. Wonder, I could probably get this on both cameras here. I could probably put this on both sides. You can see it. I'm setting how fast the response is. Now, I don't actually know, I can't quantitatively say how strong the spring is. All I can say is how much I feel it on my finger on the key when I release and how quickly it pushes up the hammer, okay? Now, this is important. Just maybe, if this is way too technical or whatever, just tell me, like, that's too nerdy, we don't care. But this joint, if it's looser, that hammer will flop around a lot easier with a much weaker spring. So a lot of times it's really hard to regulate worn out parts that don't have any friction in the joints at all, because the spring will look really, really strong, but if you weaken it to the point where it doesn't bounce too much, then it's too weak and the action doesn't feel good. It doesn't repeat well, doesn't respond well. So this is called a repetition spring. This one's pretty fast. When I release it, it goes boing, and I can feel that hit in my finger, so I'm gonna just tone it down. But look, these new springs, dead. I barely touched it, it's dead. It's almost like I have to bend them initially, and then I can adjust them better either direction. Almost everyone has been that way, which that's not a bad thing. It's just an observation about new parts, putting them on. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other stories of musicians that I tuned for. Okay, so so Leon Fleischer, Leon, right? The pianist. He came to do an event for a music school here, and they hired me to tune the piano. And it's not a piano I look after regularly. It was at one of the universities that I don't normally service, and I voiced the piano a little bit, and tuned it for his rehearsal, and then I was going to tune it again. And I was really new to concert tuning at the time, and I was excited to tune for such a great pianist and conductor. And I thought, I wonder what he's going to do, or I wonder how picky he's going to be. And what I had found is that a lot of people aren't picky, like what I was telling you earlier. Especially if they're really good pianists, they're not really picky. They're just like, it'll be fine. But which he was that way. But the first thing he does when he gets there, he goes bong, bong, plays every single note chromatically to listen for evenness of tone, to like a micro level. I thought, oh no, because the piano was not voiced very well to begin with, and I didn't have much time to prep it. That scared me. But anyway, then he went through it and practiced. He's like, the piano's great. It'll be fine. He was a seasoned veteran doing what he does, and I think the more seasoned they are, the less they nitpick at things that are not practical to resolve within the few minutes or hours you have before a concert. So so I get the feeling that a lot of people just like to, let's see, never mind, let me think about what I'm doing here. All right, we're good. So I'm gonna keep setting springs. I approach it from the right because I'm right-handed, so that works for me. But you can tell a piano that's been where the springs have been pulled on the right side continuously, because they come up to that side easily. But then I'll go on a piano that I can tell like someone left-handed has been servicing, and it's hard I can't get the spring to come out the right way, which is fine. Left-handed, right-handed, great, but it's just interesting to me.
if you're joining, feel free to add comments to the chat. Maybe feel more than free. Maybe feel like slightly pressured. Yes, slightly pressured to add comments and questions to the chat so that we have something to talk about that is in line with what you're interested in knowing. Because I actually, believe it or not, I do not read minds. But if you're, if you see, I put too much pressure on because I really want to interact. I want to connect. I want to see what people are thinking and thinking about. But I guess I don't want to pressure you too much. Just feel free to relax and watch if you want. The same piano I was telling you about that Olga Kern played that wasn't prepped well, and she had a whole concert of Rachmaninoff that needed repetition really well. I felt really bad, but then I was able to work on the same piano again for another concert in the series, and and it worked really well after regulating it. It worked really well, and so I was sad I couldn't get it ready for the master, but I was glad that the piano was better for the concerts thereafter. Okay. These springs are different thicknesses. I see some more comments in the chat. I'll take a look here in just one sec. These springs are different thicknesses gauge of wire, so they kind of respond differently. Obviously the you don't need as strong of a spring for these lighter hammers at the top, the smaller ones. The thicker hammers, you need a stronger spring. Okay, I'm gonna look at the chat here. What do you think about the digital piano companies attempting to duplicate escapement on digital pianos? Is that important to the field? The resistance plays into the equation for sure. So I think it's a great idea. I think it'll make it more like playing a normal piano, but you don't feel a shelf. You don't feel escapement when you play a piano, right? It's only when you play really, really slowly and then push through. But you do feel the resistance that happens. Okay. Let's see, maybe I can angle this down and kind of take a look here. So like this here, as soon as this, let me get a little pointer. As soon as this part comes in contact with this screw that goes through here, which is called the drop screw, you're gonna feel there's a resistance. But a lot of times, look, I'm throwing the hammer up towards the string before it actually goes through that motion down here on the key. So I will feel that resistance on the key, but the hammer's already hit the string, So, but in short, I think it's a good idea. Anything that makes it feel similar to an acoustic piano is a good idea. I like those pianos. I like those digital pianos better that have attempted to do that. I don't think those are lost efforts. But I still consider the digital piano a different instrument than the acoustic piano. Okay, how many pianos am I able to tune in a day? It depends on how many hours I work that day, right? So, but, I'm getting old. So, but I can probably do, if I did if I'm going around from house to house, I'm only going to do 4. I'm not going to do more. If I'm doing faster tunings like concert tunings or at a university, then you're talking like 8 or 9 pianos a day on average. Just getting through them because they need to be tuned. So, well, I have 2 hammers rubbing against each other here. I need to fix that. So that's a good question. And it seems like there's like robot tuners out there that can just tune one after another. I am not that way. Like I would prefer to sit and work on a piano and really make it nice in every other aspect, for a half day, a full day. So I kind of focus on that. The problem is most of the profit margin is in doing the regular tunings. Now, I'm faster now, but I like the piano to be better besides just the tuning. So every time I see it, I like something to improve on it. So for that reason, I don't want to rush, and try and cram in more than 4 appointments a day. I figure that's about an hour and a half of work time with a half hour of travel on average in between. So that's a great question. That is a great question. Let's see. Friction is no good. If you have hammers rubbing against each other like I have here, you don't want that. That will not make it feel good. So I'm just kind of tweaking the alignment on these. There's really not a lot of clearance in this area. And actually the hammers have to be tilted. They're tilted a little bit to the tenor side to allow for more clearance as they go up and down so that they can be closer together. All right, what do we got here? Okay, so I fixed that one. We've set our springs in this area. Did we set them in here? How far did I go up? Just gonna check these. And my work schedule, I don't tune every day. I mean, I tune something every day, but I don't load my schedule up with 4 tuning appointments a day. I don't shoot for that because I feel like I need variety. So I do a lot in the shop. I really like the shop work, voicing work. I'll go into the music store, work for them. I'll go to the college, work there. I'll do it all day voicing or regulation for somebody, things that kind of break up the monotony. It's not honestly, it's not the way to the most money, at least in my area. But I just feel like for me, I kind of have to do it that way. And I've been tuning enough to where it's not as much of a toll on my body or my brain as it was at the beginning. So it's kind of nice that way, but I still don't like to load up too many tunings. If I wanted to do that, what I would suggest to someone trying to do that and maximize their profits, I would suggest advanced scheduling, like here when you go to the dentist, they schedule your next 6-month checkup. Just do that type of thing for the pianos, and then that tends to build your business and your tuning appointments volume. If you're just joining, we'll talk about whatever you want. Feel free to post your questions, comments in the chat. We'll get to it here. I'm just setting repetition springs.
Some are too weak, some are too strong. They're kind of all over the place. Oftentimes when I get a new set of Steinway parts, either called the whip-in or the repetitions, the springs are overly strong and you just have to weaken them. This set is different. This set's not strengthening the way I want it to. Let's see what's going on here. There we go. Now I got it strong. Too strong. Let's see, any other new questions in the chat there? You know, a lot of people mention problems on the grand piano of double striking or bobbling, and it's usually this tenor area that's the bigger problem. The hammers are a little heavier, and you know, this middle area right here. These smaller hammers don't tend to have as much of a problem. The strings can be a little stronger, and they'll do just fine. Okay, another question here. Any thoughts about octave sizes? I've been reading about 4/2 octaves or 6/3 octaves. Okay, so this is my latest take on octaves. For those who don't know, a 4/2 octave, you're comparing the different overtones between two notes in an octave. Okay, so say it was A3 and A4. You're looking at the fourth partial of A3, which is A5, and you're looking at the second partial. That also A5 also is the second partial of A4. So you've got the fourth partial and the second partial. So we call it a 4/2 octave. 6/3 octave, it would be where those overtones collide. It's an octave and a fifth above the upper note. Okay, so what happens with the size of octaves when the way the piano wire acts, and the frequencies it gives off? What you'll find on the piano is that certain octaves sound, when it's in tune, you're not going to be pure on any of those octaves, pretty much, or you know, oftentimes you're not. You have to kind of pick and choose where the overtones are actually going to align the best. But I think the best mode is just tune the octave till it sounds as good as you can. And that's the size of octave you need in that range of the piano. Okay. And different ranges of the piano will sound better or worse. If you actually measure the octave, you'll find, oh, that is a 6/3 octave, or that's a slightly wide 6/3 octave. Oh, that's a slightly wide, 4/2 octave. Okay. And so I think when you're tuning by ear, it becomes a kind of a non-issue. Like you'll hear, it's when it sounds in tune, you've got the right size octave. And I think the study of it and naming the octaves is helpful for. It's more of an academic exercise, and it's interesting to know what's going on, but it's not like if you say, well, I'm always going to tune a 6/3 octave in this range of the piano, no matter what size of piano it is. Some pianos you tune will sound awful if you do that. Others will sound fine. So that's the way it actually works in the acoustics of the, or not the acoustics, in the tuning of the piano. So great question. You know, if these springs aren't strong enough, the action doesn't work very well. Look at the time, 3:45. I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to keep this going until 4 o'clock, and then I'm going to call it a day. But I really appreciate anyone who's joined up. So over the next 15 minutes or whatever, if you have any burning topics you want to cover, put them in the chat. Some of these are kind of giving me trouble here. Not that they can't be adjusted right, it's just taking some doing to strengthen them. Okay. Okay, let's see, one more question here about tuning. Any advice on tuning the highest notes? That's the trick when you start, right? So it can be challenging because you're not used to listening to frequencies that high and comparing them. The one thing, and the other thing is the highest notes on the piano will also have a lot of what we call false beats, right? Where you're almost hearing two pitches at once, or you're hearing a pulsing pattern like it's out of tune, but it's one string. So what are you supposed to do with that? Okay. One thing that helped me, and that I think has helped other people that I've worked with, is if you tune. Now, I'm not sure if you're talking about actually moving the pin or string to get it, because that's tricky too, because you have to think a smaller change up there makes a bigger change in pitch because of the tension and the shortness of the string. So you don't have to move things as much sometimes, but okay, this is the way I think of it. Just realize that the same thing's going on. It's not that much harder to hear. It's just that you're not used to hearing it up there, and you're not used to slowing down and thinking about it. Okay.
So you want it to sound just crystal clear. If you hear someone whistling, usually whistling or a piccolo, those are really high pitches. And what does it sound like when they're out of tune? You can tell, just think about that, or hear a recording or something, or try it. And and really, though, you're doing the same thing. You're making three strings try and sound like one, if you can. Or if you're tuning it to the octave, you're trying to make that top note disappear into the bottom, into the overtones of the bottom note, so that it sounds really unified. That's where it's going to be in tune. So, but here's one trick. After you tune, say, if you're talking about trying to tune the unisons up there, because usually that's what you need to focus on first, just tune it to where the attack is as crystal clear and the loudest bulk part of the sound is as crystal clear and sounding like one note as you can. And then play it with a note three, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 or 4 octaves below. And it should sound really solid and clean. And if it doesn't, or if one stands out above another, sometimes when you do that, it helps you realize the notes that are standing out as not as clean and not as well in tune as the others up there. The other thing to realize is just because there's a false beat up there doesn't mean it's not going to sound clean in a concert or a recording, or when you tune it a certain way. When you tune it a certain way, the right tone is amplified. We're talking about tuning the highest notes on the piano. If you just joined us, the right tone is amplified, or it's brought to the forefront, and that false beat is kind of just in the background, and you don't notice it as much. And sometimes it's almost like it cancels it out. Maybe it does. I don't know the physics behind it, but you try and tune those unisons to where it does cancel that out, and to where it feels, but it also sounds like that it's not flat, or sharp, but it sounds like in tune. Yeah, and then just keep telling yourself it's not any different than the others. It's just maybe these are a little more squirrely. Maybe I need to listen a little more, kind of step back and listen to it as if you were in a concert hall and hear the note and say, is that clean or not? And then tweak it a little bit and say, oh, is that cleaner? Okay. The other trick is you can pluck the 3 strings, and your brain will pick up on the pitch difference a lot more when you pluck those 3 strings than when you play them together in that case. So if you think you have it in tune, just pluck them and make sure they sound the same. Now, when you pluck it, it's going to sound flat compared to when you hit the note, like on the highest C or B. So, so just be aware of that and don't get thrown off by that. But just pay attention to, are the 3 strings, do they sound like the same pitch compared to each other? So that would be some good advice. So playing it spread with other notes in octaves chromatically, and listening for cleanness and just a solid tone. The other thing is, don't think that it's any harder than the rest of the piano. It's not. It just takes your brain a while to get used to it. Also, the other tip is to learn to think of it as an instrument, other instruments that you're familiar with, piccolo, whistling, something high, a tin whistle, and that can help to try and get a clear tone. That helps me to envision it. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. And then practice, and then allow yourself to be evaluated by someone who's a really good tuner and has good experience, and then watch them make it better and listen to them make it better. And then the act of that, your brain will latch on to, oh, yeah, I was close, but that's even better. So I think that'll be helpful to you. But the beats work the same, I mean, yeah, they're faster up here if you're comparing octaves. One thing, if you're talking about tuning octaves up to the highest notes of the piano and not matching unisons, then think of, a harpsichord has different choirs. It has 2 8-foot choirs, usually, if you're like a double manual harpsichord, 2 sets of 8-foot strings and 1 set of 4-foot strings. And when you tune a harpsichord, you tune that 4-foot string to sound like kind of an overtone of the lower one. So that's what I was saying. The higher you go, you can't use other checks oral checks to be able to say, oh, this is beating faster than that one. At least not the fast beat checks. Okay, the fast beat checks are like a major 10th, major 3rd, or major 17th. But the slow beat checks are the octave itself, the 5th and the 4th. So you train your ear and brain to know it's going to be, I want to listen to that octave. If the octave sounds good and it sounds in tune and clean, then it is. And you play them together and try and make that upper note, like in a harpsichord tuning, try and make that upper note disappear into the lower note to where it just sounds like one note. And that will be a real good start. And then play them separate. Play the lower note and allow your brain to really latch onto that pitch, and then play the upper note and make a judgment call at that point. Is that upper note flat, sharp, or in tune? And you have to continually practice this. If it sounds flat, don't be there. Don't leave it there, right? Make sure it doesn't sound flat of the other one. But probably most people, when they start tuning, they're going to think it's flat when it's not too. But don't worry about that. Just make a call and keep trying to make it sound pure, make it disappear into the note below it, play it with the notes spread apart octaves, play melodies up there with chords to hear, does it sound good, with different harmonies? And that's what I do. And that's a good check. So yeah, that's a great question. Did I answer where you were going with that, or have I missed it? Yeah. Yeah, checking with the lower octaves is good. Okay. Also, I like to think of like really high melodies. You know that movie, let's see, it's like an animated movie about the girl's emotions and feelings. Inside Out. That's what it's called. Inside Out. The theme song to that movie is way up in the high treble, but it's a really good piano and it's a really clear sound. So then you could say, oh, I got to make my high notes sound like that song. That might help. So check it out, Inside Out. For those who may not have been around, you're just joining, I'm about to wrap up at 4, but I'm happy to take any questions in the chat right now before we do that. I've just been working on this piano, but it's not necessarily what we're talking about. It's just kind of a sideshow. And the real focus is whatever you want to know. So yeah, let me know is there something else. Okay. Now that I have these spring, oh no, I didn't do the top section. I got to do this at the top section here. You know why I think the highest notes of the piano are harder to tune also? The pitch jumps around a lot more. The pitch, with a smaller movement, it's harder to track where you were in pitch and where you went all of a sudden. You might lose, that's what it is your brain loses track of where you went. Like, am I sharp now or am I way flat? Or, what happened just now? It can be a little jumpy. So a little bit more frequent attacks can help track that sound a little better and make sure it's coordinated with when you're actually moving the tuning pin. And that can kind of help you to zero in on, where is that pitch? Where did I move it? Because tuning isn't really a game of like, did I get it in tune, which is this some theoretical, imaginary, perfect frequency? No, that's not it. It's is this the best it can sound, or can it be improved? And that's the game. If you think of it that way, then your tunings will be really good. All right, let me know if you like this format of connecting with you. I'm gonna go ahead and close up the stream. Thanks for anyone who joined and participated. Yeah, just let me know what you think. Feel free to comment. If you have specific questions or suggestions, this chat, I don't think I have access to it after we close up, so I'm gonna just put my put an email address that you can use. Feel free to don't spam me, but feel free to use that for any suggestions and feedback on the format here. And bear in mind, I'm kind of doing this for free or for pennies, not not enough to compensate for the time. So don't be too harsh on me, is what I'm saying. But anyway, thanks for joining. We'll catch you. See you around next time.